Our first reading is from 2 Samuel 24, 15 through 25, which is different than what's listed in the bulletin. So the Lord sent a pestilence on Israel from that morning until the appointed time, and 70,000 of the people died, from Dan to Beersheba. But when the angel stretched out his hand towards Jerusalem to destroy it, the Lord relented concerning this evil, and said to the angel who was bringing the destruction among the people, "It is enough, now stay your hand." The angel of the Lord was then by the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. When David saw the angel who was destroying the people, he said to the Lord, "I alone have sinned, and I alone have done wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done? Let your hand, I pray, be against me and against my father's house." That day Gad came to David and said to him, "Go up and erect an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite." Following Gad's instructions, David went up as the Lord had commanded. When Araunah looked down, he saw the king and his servants coming toward him. And Araunah went out and prostrated himself before the king with his face to the ground. Araunah said, "Why has my lord the king come to his servant?" David said, "To buy the threshing floor from you in order to build an altar to the Lord, so that the plague may be averted from the people." Then Araunah said to David, "Let my lord the king take and offer up what seems good to him. Here are the oxen for the burnt offering, and the threshing sledges, and the yokes of the oxen for the wood. All this, O king, Araunah gives to the king." And Araunah said to the king, "May the Lord your God respond favorably to you." But the king said to Araunah, "No, I will buy them from you for a price. I will not offer burnt offerings to the Lord, my God, that cost me nothing." So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver. David built there an altar to the Lord and offered burnt offerings and offerings of well-being. So the Lord answered his supplication for the land, and the plague was averted from Israel. Please stand for a reading from the Gospel. This is Mark 12, 38 through 44. As he taught, Jesus said, "Watch out for the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and be greeted with respect in the marketplaces, and have the most important seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for a show make lengthy prayers. These men will be punished most severely." Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins, worth only a few cents. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on." This is the word of the Lord. Thank you.
Breathe on me, breath of God, till I am wholly thine. Till all this earthly part of me glows with thy fire divine. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be holy and acceptable unto you, O God, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. The rabbis tell a story about how God decided where to build the temple in Jerusalem. The story goes like this. There were 2 brothers who were partners in a grinding of wheat in a milling business. And they decided to split the profits down equally, down the halfway, so that what they grind during the day, each took a bag home with them of what they of the wheat that they had grind. One of the brothers had a wife and family. The other brother was single. One night, one of the single brothers said, "It's not fair that I get half of this. I think I should give a portion of my profit to my brother because he has a family to feed, a wife and children." So late at night, he went and gave half of his share into the bag of his brother. The other brother said, "It's not right that I have half of the profit. My brother is alone and has no one to take care of him when he gets old. I have a wife and children who will take care of me. I think I should give him half of the profit I have." And so at night, he went and gave half of the profit of his bag into his brother's bag. Now, both bags were filled in the morning, and the brothers thought that was a miracle. Until one night, when they met each other in the street and saw what they were doing, filling each other's bag. And they explained to each other why they were doing it. And they stopped in the middle, and they hugged each other and wept at the gift of love. And there is where God decided to build the temple. It was at that same temple that Jesus was outside watching people give their money to special offerings. There were 13 receptacles outside, and the rich were coming by and putting in their money. And it was making a clanging noise. And then came along a widow who put in 2 mites. And it sounded like nothing. And Jesus grabbed the disciples and said, "Come here, come here, come here." And the disciples thought he was going to say something about all the money that was coming in from the wealthy. And Jesus said, Look at this widow who gave a penny's worth of offering. She gave all that she had. It didn't make a big clang, but she gave generously. She gave out of love. She gave because she felt it in her heart to give. She gave because she loves God. Just as those 2 brothers did once ago when the temple was built. Jesus also said it is more blessed to give than to receive. I serve the church where the ladies of the church serve a tea at a convalescent hospital. And they love serving this tea. They did it like every quarter or every month or something. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. And they would go and serve the tea. And eventually, one elderly gentleman started leaving $5 bills under his napkin. Well, the ladies were, for few, they were just taken back. We can't accept his money. We're doing this for service. We can't accept his money. What are we going to do? And then they realized that he had to give. That he had received so much that he had to give back. And so time after time, that gentleman gave his $5. The women took it and said thank you, and realized the offering that it was. Alice Hazeltine, and growing up in America, writes in her book about how her mother had a box and the kitchen table for loose coins. Now, this family was not rich by any stretch of the imagination. Some nights they went to bed hungry. But Alice Hazeltine says that any spare coin went in that box. Any spare coin went in that box. And sometimes those kids hated their mother that a spare coin went in that box when they could have used it themselves. But on dark days, when the light wasn't shining, when they felt down about themselves and about their own situation, that mother would take that box and walk it, because they wouldn't spend money on car fare, walk it to the family less in favor than themselves and give them the money. And that dark day would turn to light. It was no longer dark, because it is more blessed to give than to receive. Carl Menninger says, those who are generous are never mentally ill. To give. It even says in Deuteronomy that the slaves should give back. You have come into your ancestors' land. You have cities that you didn't build. You have houses that you didn't fill with good things. You have vineyards of olives and vineyards that you didn't grow. Give back. Give back. For the Lord has given to you. Think of what you have been given. Think about what you have been given. Now, I know that this week has been a hard week for some of us. But thank God for democracy and free elections, even if our candidate didn't win. Thank God for this nation and a community that's still growing. Thank God for God's endowment of this land. Thank God for maintenance of security and safety. Thank God for strength and health. Thank God for what you've been given. You've been given so much. You've been given so much. We don't even notice it. But we've been given so much. Shaw once wrote that a gentleman is known by how much he gives back. But I don't think you can ever give back enough. It's not about how much money you make, it's what you do with the money you make. Give back. Give back. The woman's gift was sacrificial. Think about it. When we put out an appeal for clothing, for someone who's been in a fire, what do? Go through your closets or buy new clothing? When your neighbor is ill, what do? Check with your neighbor when you're going to the store? Or miss the game because your neighbor needs something? What do? Give because there's a write-off on taxes? Or give because you have a generous heart? What do? What do? David gave. And that's what this whole passage from Samuel is about. He could have had all that stuff for free. There was a plague. I'm not doing well with words today. There was a plague. And God said to David, you can get rid of the plague if you sacrifice an animal on Araunah's threshing floor. And so David went to him and said, I need your threshing floor, I need an animal, and I'm going to pay for it. And Araunah said, no, let me give it to you. And David said, I can't let you give it to me. It's not an offering if you give it to me. I have to pay for it. A Christian missionary got a shell from one of her students that she was teaching. It was a gorgeous shell. She asked where the student got it, and he said, I had to walk miles to the farthest beach. She said, you shouldn't have done that for me. He goes, the walk was part of the gift. The walk was part of the gift. Let's face it, we might not have a lot to give. And we might be impressed with big gifts, but Jesus didn't say we had to give big gifts. He didn't say, be like the ones who are given the big gifts. Because he knew that we would say, well, we'll wait till we get that far. He said, be like the one with the widow's mite. Give from the heart. Give what you can. Give all that you can. Give what you can. Give all that you can. Christina Rossetti poemed a Christmas hymn. If I was a shepherd, poor as I am, I would give a lamb. Emerson wrote, a farmer should give corn. A poet should give a poem. A miner should give a gem. Henry Emerson Fosdick wrote that our giving is congealed sweat. It's money, yes. But even when we're busy, do you know that you're preaching in Africa? Do you know that you're healing the sick in Korea? Do you know that you're feeding the hungry in that you're teaching kids in Persia and building new civilizations in Egypt? Giving. It's what it does. It's what it does. As well as support all of the ministries of this church. It's what it does. That's what you're doing. One last story. A king was coming from Thailand to have an operation. And the surgeon didn't know what to charge him. Should he charge him a fee that would be kind, say like $10,000? Should he charge him his usual fee, say like $50,000? Or because he was a king, should he charge him an exorbitant fee, say $100,000? So the king asked the lawyer what he should charge him. And the lawyer said, the king is an honorable man. Send him an invoice, don't put a fee on it, and write in a footnote, I know, O king, you are an honorable man. The invoice came back with $2 million. The doctor was flabbergasted. But he went out and bought a mink coat for his wife, 2 Cadillacs, and a trip around the world. When he came back with his flattened wallet, there was an invoice waiting from him. It was from the king's lawyer. The invoice didn't have any fee, but it had a footnote. Dear doctor, you're an honorable man. Friends, today we make pledges to give to this church, to give to this ministry, to give all that we can, to give generously, to give lovingly, to give. And no one's watching over you. There's no invoice. No one's telling you what to give. But hear these words, my friend. You are honorable Christians. What are you going to give? Thanks be to God. Amen. Amen.